And joining us back on the show, great to have him back with us. Great to have him back in town as well, performing at the Van Wezel this Saturday night, Valentine's night, the 14th, doing his show. And this will be a tribute to Frank Sinatra. Great to welcome Michael Feinstein with us. And Michael, always good to talk with you. How have you been?
I have been great. Thank you very much for having me back with you.
You've been a very busy guy. We didn't get a chance to chat with you last time you were in town, but always good to have you back. I know Sarasota is one of your favorite stops on your tour.
It's true. I've had a long relationship with coming to Sarasota and Van Wezel, and it's a real music town. There's a true appreciation for the music that I do, and of course the legacy of many great musicians who have lived there, including Lou Tyser, Franny and Tyser, and of course Dick Hyman and so many others. So it's always a pleasure to be there.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing Dick again. He does the Jazz Festival, which is coming up a couple of weeks after your show, Mike. So it's going to be always great to have Dick in our area. Of course, he was such a part of the Great American Songbook as you are, and your show is going to be in the centennial year of his birth, Frank Sinatra music. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, this is Frank Sinatra's centennial, and of course there will be many, many celebrations of him, and I'm only too happy to do some tribute shows to him because when I was starting out, he was very nice to me, and I've never forgotten that.
You got a chance to work with him a couple times.
I didn't work with him, but I met him and I had dinner with him. Well, I worked for him in that I played, the first time I played a private party, it was his wife Barbara's birthday.
Right.
And I was hired to play the piano for the party. It was at Chasen's restaurant, and I hadn't met him, but every time I would play a classic song connected with him, he would look at me with this perplexed expression. And finally he got up from the table and he came over to me and he said, "How do you know all those songs? How old are you, 12? And then he invited me to join him, and we sat and talked, and I was invited to his house for dinner, and I got to know both he and Barbara, and he was kind to me, and he didn't have to be. So I will never forget that.
Yeah, you hear so many stories over the years about Frank. Many good, but there are also some that he could be difficult, but that's good. You had a good experience.
Well, I had the pleasure of being with him in his most comfortable social situations. So I only saw a very relaxed and nice guy, and he liked to talk about music. And, of course, my passion was knowing about his life and his career. I didn't want to know about the personal stuff. I was interested in talking to him about songs and songwriters and arrangers, and he loved talking about that stuff. So we were both happy.
and he did so many great Gershwin songs. Of course, you worked again early in your life with Ira Gershwin, right? So you had that connection.
Yes, Sinatra is responsible for making the song "I've Got a Crush on You," written by the Gershwins in 1928, a hit, because the song was not successful when it was first presented in the 20s, and Frank took a fast-paced song and slowed "Crush on You" down to a ballad, and it became a huge hit. So Ira Gershwin was always very grateful to Frank for singing his songs and sort of reinventing them.
When you listen to those great Sinatra albums, I guess the Capitol years probably the ones most people associate with his greatest performances with Nelson Riddle, I guess in the early mid-50s. He took so many of those, I guess, Tin Pan Alley songs, if you want to call them that, and reinvented them in a sense. I guess Nelson Riddle gets credit for a lot of it too with the arrangements, but Sinatra really is responsible, isn't he, for that type of music continuing?
Yes, I would agree with that. Even though the iconic sound that we connect with those years, the Capitol years, it did originate with Nelson Riddle, because Frank went to Nelson Riddle in the early 50s and essentially said, "Nelson, I want to find a way to reinvent these songs." And he spent some time with Nelson trying to figure out what that would be, and Nelson finally said, "I think I understand, and let me work on it." And Nelson came back to him with these classic arrangements, "I've Got You Under My Skin" being the most famous. But it was Nelson Riddle who took Frank's idea, which he was not able to completely verbalize, and turn it into a substantial musical sea change that now represents the way we usually listen to American popular standards.
Yeah, in a sense, almost recreated it a little bit different than it actually was, right, when it was written, almost, by the composers.
It's true. With the phrasing and with sometimes slight reharmonizations, because these songs, when Frank sang them in the 50s, some of them were already 10, 15, and 20 years old. And so they were not, for the most part, new songs.
No. And you'll be doing a lot of that music this Saturday at the Van Wezel, February 14th. And we just chatted a moment before we went on. I know, I think a local Manatee High School student, I believe. I didn't get the name. I saw a little blurb on it online. Is going to be doing a song with you. So that's a nice honor for that, whoever that person is.
Yes, his name is Nick Drevis.
Nick Drevis, that's right. I did see that, yeah.
Nick was part of our annual Great American Songbook High School competition. I'm involved with an organization called the Great American Songbook Foundation, and every year we have a national contest where high school students from all over the country apply to become part of this event and hopefully win a prize singing American popular classic songs. And I've happily discovered there are thousands of kids all over the United States that like this old music and want to sing it. And Nick applied and became one of the 10 finalists. We have our event every year in Indiana, in Carmel, Indiana, in a gorgeous performing arts center where the Songbook Foundation is headquartered. And it involves several days of master classes and all different kinds of instruction to further introduce the young people to these songs. And Nick did a great job, and I thought it would be wonderful for the local residents to hear one of their own sing a classic song. And I think he may be 17 by now, but he's a young guy.
Well, that's good. Good to know that people under a certain age are getting into the music, that the Great American Songbook. Good to have it continue that way. We hope so.
It does. It does continue.
Yeah. And so many of that music we play here at WTMY. I know you're featured prominently as well. We kind of pattern ourselves a bit after a station you were familiar with, WNEW in New York. So we're happy to keep it alive. I know you do a radio show too, right?
Yes, I do. On National Public Radio, on NPR, I do a show called Song Travels.
Yeah, great.
We're in our third season, and it's a show that's an hour. It's an hour show, which is 50% interview and 50% music, where I have substantive time to really get into the heads of the guests, and they perform live and play their favorite recordings. And it's one of the most wonderful things I've ever done because I learned so much.
You really do, yeah. It's part of what you try and do here, just get a chance to talk to people like yourself and get the stories behind the songs. But Michael, always great to chat with you. I know you're on a busy touring schedule. Great to have a chance to talk for a couple of minutes. See Michael this Saturday at the Van Wezel, and we look forward to talking to you again. Thanks for joining us today.